I'm glad you went to the website to
No,
check that.
no, I didn't have a chance I didn't have a chance to look at it.
Oh, you
Okay,
didn't? Okay.
yeah, yeah, because I wanted to wait till I really had some time. We've been here since about 4 or 5 days, so I haven't had a chance to
Okay.
look at it
Well, I want to
like I
talk to
want to.
you a little bit more about that, in particular, how the organization that we built can best serve you guys.
Okay.
That's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
Because that was the design, was to create an umbrella organization to support all the beautiful
Wow.
expressions of youth rites of passage work out there. And so we need to hear from you how we can best support you.
Okay. Okay.
So if you have time and you don't have to rush back to the city, maybe when we're done with the interview, we could have tea or lunch even.
That'd be
and
great.
just talk further, because I would love that myself.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be real cool. Cause I don't think we got to be at Karina's till 3 or something.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Her place is in Modality?
She's in Berkeley.
Oh, she's in Berkeley?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Oh, so
Okay.
she's right here.
Okay, cool.
On this side of the bay. Okay.
Cool, cool.
Yeah, that's only 10, 15 minutes
Okay,
away.
great,
now.
great.
Okay. Okay,
Cool.
cool. So, all right. So, as much as possible, just look at me
Okay,
and forget your Greek chorus here.
okay, all right, all right. Okay.
Well, first, because I'm going to have this transcribed, so just tell us your name, spell it for us, and then tell us the organization and how you want to be listed in the film. I mean, I assume it'd be Founder Alchemy, but
Yes. Okay, Kwame Scruggs, Kwame Scruggs, Scruggs, founder and executive director of Alchemy Incorporated. I normally, I don't like to be called doctor, but I wouldn't mind listing the PhD after. Okay, but please don't call me Doctor Scruggs. Okay.
got it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
And
and
we
maybe.
won't say that if you had to do it over, you wouldn't do it. We won't.
Yeah, yeah. That I do.
We'll leave
That I
that
would
part
do.
out.
Yeah, that I. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, my wife's the same way though. She doesn't
Yeah.
like to be called doctor, but
Yeah.
she doesn't mind the PhD
Yeah,
because
yeah,
she worked hard
yeah,
for that.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll do some quick editing then on,
Okay.
on the questions and try to zero in on the ones I had about the organization in particular. But, well, there's a lot of general questions here.
Do what's
Well-
best for you, Frederick. Do what's best for you.
Well, tell us about the modality of rites of passage that you utilize. African centric. Tell us. Just give us a quick overview of the work as you see it.
Okay, for alchemy, for the most part, I would say our foundational theory is based on the Akan system of life cycle development, which is rites of passage. And I was very careful how much of that I implement because we started with the youth in the schools. Okay, so I had to be careful about things that I did in the schools. But also part of our foundation is just the common themes of the myths. Okay, so Joseph Campbell. So a lot is based on Campbell's work, and then Carl Jung. Okay, so those are the three theories. Okay, that make up our foundation. So with the rites. We incorporate some rituals, and here again, I'm even careful, using that word, in the schools. But it's okay when we pull them out, because like when they're in high school, we can meet with them once a month, so we're not on a school setting. So the one of the primary aspects of the rites that I like to incorporate is just that concept that prior to being born and coming into the world in a physical body, that you're in heaven, okay? And you're more so a spiritual being, and the belief that we all have met in heaven, and then we come down to earth at a specific moment, okay, at the right time to remember our purpose. So that's the whole basis of the youth that we work with. That wow, we've met all of we've been together before, and we're just trying to remind each other of what we came here to do. And then with the drumming, we had a lot of drumming. The way the drumming started was primarily through Kwame Williams and Michael Mead. Okay, when I just saw him drumming, I'm just like wow. And then Dr. Whitaker. So when I started it, it was just it was more so just playing the drum to tell the stories, and the youth just picked up on it, so we just end up getting drumming. So you got the concept of what I call choosing the womb. It's just being, choosing your parents, blah, 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 coming to earth. You have that concept that we took from the rites. Then the drumming, part of the rituals that we use. And we don't like even have like a formal initiation or anything, because our program is more so just, it's a combination of a rites base, theory, here again, and then the myths, the common theme in the myths, and then the Jungian psychology. Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple thoughts that come to mind. One is, are you familiar with Robert Moore's work? King, warrior, magician, lover?
Yes.
Because he's
Yeah.
a neo-Jungian thinker.
Yes.
In fact, when I was in Chicago 2 weeks ago, I was trying to interview him, but he's recently had a heart bypass surgery, so his health is not good.
Okay.
But I definitely want to have his voice as one of the essential voices of this film.
I'm not certain I read his book, but it's on my shelf. It's on my shelf. Yeah, it's on my shelf. Okay.
And in fact, while I'm thinking of it, Angela Zarian, who I mentioned a moment ago too, she wrote a book with a similar title, but it's not King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It's the same 4 archetypes, but she characterizes them differently. So it's like teacher, sovereign, friend, warrior, or something.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, but it's a beautiful book too. And the difference between them is Roberts is more kind of neo-Jungian psychology. It's steeped in that tradition, whereas Angeli's work is steeped more in cultural anthropology, looking around the world at the common practices of different peoples.
Okay. Now something else I thought about rites that we did incorporate was our circle by age. Okay, and in the rites, that's where I learned that concept was. It's up to the oldest to look out for the youngest. Okay, so they sit in the circle by age, youngest to oldest, primarily for 2 reasons. One is to create a sense of order. Okay, because their lives, everybody's lives, quote unquote, is chaotic in some sense. But for a lot of urban youth, the majority of their lives are chaotic. So we provide a sense of order, but then also. Here again, it's up to the oldest to look out for the youngest, to make the sacrifices for the youngest, so that when they become old, they'll remember, hey, when I was in this seat, somebody took care of me. Okay, and that's one of the things we saw immediately. I remember we were in a school in Cleveland, and wow, this was years ago, and it was a bunch of black boys, young black boys, standing in line to get some water, and these youth were probably maybe, I'm guessing, like 4th grade. So I'm figuring, you don't have a lot of black males in the schools. And I remember, getting ready to walk by, and I'm figuring, wow, they're really gonna be happy to see a black male in the school. They didn't even speak. They didn't even hardly speak. And I'm just like, wow, our generation has just left them so much on their own that they don't even really acknowledge, another black man. Another thing where some of the schools we work in, is so sad to see some of the youth when they walk in, they don't even know who we are, but they'll see us, with the drums there, and then I remember the one dude said, man, I don't want nothing to do with that African stuff, and they don't even give us a chance, just because of here again, our generation leaving them on their own. And that's another thing with the rites that we learn, is that here again, it's up to the oldest to look out for the younger people. So one of the first things we do, we apologize to the youth for our generation leaving them on their own, because in the rites, it's about going from one stage to another, successfully. Joseph Pierce is another book. I don't know if you're familiar with The Magical Child by Joseph Pierce, but wow, that's the book that we read through the rites, and it just talks about going through stages successfully. And he was saying that his definition of intelligence is going from the known to the unknown. Okay, and so many of our youth, they don't have someone to assist them over that bridge. Okay, so that's what we try to do a lot, is assist the youth over that bridge.
Beautiful. There's 3 things I want to say. I have to keep editing what I want to respond to, but I love that it's so much our responsibility, the elders. It's not their responsibility.
No.
We have to be there for
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and I hate that when people point the finger at them and say
Yeah.
you're screwing up. Well,
Yeah.
no one's showing
Yeah,
up what to do.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
It's our fault. It's
Yeah.
our fault.
You know, you talk what you say too reminds me of basically of mentorship. Really, is what it boils down to. And I tend to think of rites of passage and mentorship as two halves of one whole. That both are essential for the well-being and the development of the young people into young adulthood. Mentorship is needed before, during, and after any kind of peak rite of passage type experience. So my wet dream, frankly, is that the film will help build into institutional structures like schools, the kind of mentoring you're talking about. So that 6th graders will mentor 3rd graders.
There you go.
9th graders will mentor 6th graders. 12th
There you
graders.
go.
You know, on and on, right?
Yeah.
So talk about how mentorship is kind of built into it.
Okay, so wow, great. That's great, because what we want to do is our college youth now who've been with us, you know, we have about 28 youth from our first core group. And half of them started with us in 6th grade, and we kept them till 12th. And the other half started with us in 9th grade. We kept them till 12th, but then we combined the two groups. So now they're the majority of them are seniors now in college, okay? And but we have a second core group of their 8th and 9th graders, but we started with them in 4th and 6th grade. So they're now entering their 4th and 5th year in the program. But we want our college youth to start working with the younger youth, because you know all of us are up in age. I'm the youngest. I'm by far the youngest out of the 3 of us. I'm by far the youngest. Okay, so, but I'm 56 years old. Okay, so when they look at us, they listen, but it would just be so much more powerful coming from the college youth. And they say, we use a lot of quotes in alchemy, a lot of quotes. And one is, the best way to train a wild elephant is to yoke it to one that's already been through the process. This way the wild one will see that though startlingly different, it is still viable. Okay, so yeah, it's just, you know, it's so important to have those closer to age, those who've already been through the process. So our college youth, I'll say we probably got 5 or so who are really, more than that really, about 10, really looking forward to coming back and working with our younger youth. And then we even thought about, because we had a summer camp the year before last with our college youth, working with the younger youth. And our younger youth are pretty sharp, okay, especially the ones we started with in 4th grade who are now in 8th grade. And so with this whole reading thing coming up, you know, where you got to pass a reading at 3rd grade or else you're being held back, we want to start to have our 8th graders start working with 3rd graders, you know. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that mentorship piece.
And if it is your dream too, talk about it, how you'd like to see a practice like that instituted in other structures like school structures.
Just like you, wow. Being honest, I haven't thought that far ahead yet. I got my hands full. Okay, I got my hands full with just the alchemy bit, and which in here I might be going off base here a little bit, but I remember our marketing guy told me that I couldn't have picked the worst name. Okay, from a marketing perspective, the fact that, you know, our program's called Alchemy, we dealing with myth, we got drums sitting in a circle, you know, black boys, you know, so I don't know how I got off on that. But.
So you should rebrand as like hip hop creative. I hear you.
Yeah.
My board tells me almost every month, do we have to call it rites of passage?
Yeah.
Do we call it something more hip or something? And I'm like, well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, okay, well, here's another way to maybe get entree into the same issue. You talked about rituals, and you talk about how that's a kind of a word, you know, you don't want to use it around schools because it scares them. Talk about if you can envision in any way sort of partnering with schools. Well, I guess there's 2 questions. One is, what are the difficulties in frankly convincing them that this is what they should be doing, along with reading, writing, and math.
I think in defense of the teachers and administrators, they're held, you know, so accountable, you know, on the test scores. Okay, so I understand their reluctance to have us come in, especially during the school day. Okay, so because right now our program is primarily in school. When we started off, we were after school, so I understand their reluctance. But the thing is, the studies have shown, you know, that they need the social and emotional learning. So fortunately for us, we have a lot of data, okay? 26 out of 28 of our original core group graduated on time, with 24 out of 26 going to college. 26 out of 28 graduated on time, with 26 going to college, okay? So this year I think we've already had one graduate, and this year I think we'll probably have about 7 or 8 graduate. So I'm thinking we'll have about 14 or 15 of the youth graduate. So, and then when we look at our data for social and emotional learning, Kent State University does our evaluation. So we can show them the data, okay, that this helps, this improves, okay, their academics. Now what we're going to do now, because I brought Terrence Shelton aboard a couple years ago, and he's former director Upper Bound. So we're adding the academic component, because our program is really not an academic program, but like he said, since one of our primary objectives is for the youth to go to college, we need to focus more on academics. And I was always just of the attitude that the things that we're teaching them through the myths, they should automatically apply, okay, to the academics. You know, they should see the transfer of knowledge. But I had to, that was maybe one time he was right out of 100 times. Yeah, so I'll give him that one time.
Great. Yeah, gosh, my mind is firing in so many different directions. It's so wonderful that you have the data, and it is starting to come out, and that's part of the purpose of Youth Passageways, is to collate the data, to get the data from you and from all the other organizations, put it out to everyone else, and say, here are the stats, use it to go get funding, to get support that you need, because slowly it's starting to come in. The character development is as important, or more so, than the 3 R's.
Yeah,
you know?
and then also when they see our youth, especially our college youth, okay, you can tell our youth, they kind of dealing, I say this in all modesty, okay, but they're dealing on another level, okay, because of so much of that myth is based on, and the responses in our discussions is the highest level of critical thinking. So really, you know, right on for all the data, but really the proof is when you see our youth in person and when you hear them, okay, and then you say, you know, at some point as we were riding up here, at some point you got to stop saying this is coincidence, okay, and it's because of what we are doing, okay. Yeah.
Well, the proof is in the body, I always say, and you can see it in their eyes. You know, they're on fire and they're excited, they're engaged, right? So, you know, to my way of thinking, that's one of the key benefits of Rite of Passage, is that it acquaints that young person deeply with their own purpose, with their own gifts,
the soul,
right? And then simply unlocks the doors around them to let them give them.
Another quote, they say, you give a person facts and ideas and you enlighten their mind. You tell them a story, you touch their soul. Okay,
Nice. You know, your program seems like such a no-brainer for My Brother's Keeper support. I mean, I hope to God they're going to flood you with money. Is that another issue? Okay. You don't have to talk about it, you know what? I mean,
we'll see.
Okay, well,
we'll see.
Let me set you up in a different way to address that. I mean, tell us about how you're a no-brainer for support from a federal program like My Brother's Keeper.
I would think that if you would look at the data, here again, the data, and if you see our youth, I think the film is going to help. I think the film, Find the Goal Within, I think that's going to help. I mean, we won the president, the National Youth and National Arts and Humanities Youth Program Award, the nation's highest honor for after-school programs. So I mean, we went to the White House and got the hug from Michelle Obama. So you would think that would count for something. And then with the data, and then just seeing our youth. So, but now in their defense, when you tell people that you're working with youth through myth, okay, they don't understand it. So, and they think it can't be replicated. Okay, but that's what we're doing now. We're putting a training program together to show that it can be replicated. So, I don't want to say the cream rises to the top, and here again, I'm saying this in all modesty, okay, because I have so much help, okay. Wow, one day I asked myself, what did I actually do, because I got so much help, but I think in the end, they'll see, and I would put our youth up against anybody's youth in the country, as a group. When you just see their ability to navigate their way through life. So I don't want to sound like I'm putting other programs down, but they say the birds that fly the highest don't fly with the flock. Okay, so not everybody's gonna feel what we're doing, and that's okay. But we can sleep at night. Okay, we can sleep at night. All right. Okay. So if we get assistance from them, fine. If not, we'll. It's already been proven to us that this is the work of the ancestors. So it's gonna happen. It's gonna come from some source. Okay. So we'll be fine.
Yeah. You talk about the particular advantages and disadvantages that you face in Akron.
Well, just being, with all due respect to Akron, it's a small city. Okay, it's a small city, so here again, with a program called Alchemy, using myth. When in any small city, I think going to be a small mindset. Okay, so I just think in a larger city like New York or here, Oakland, wherever we go, any place else. I mean, wow, they don't want us to go home. Okay, and they really want to know, what can we do to keep you here? Okay, but because I'm from Akron, I want that to be our home base. Okay, but it has not been easy. It's not been easy. Okay, I've been fortunate because my father's pretty well known in Akron. My mother's side of family, pretty well known. So, and then with my background, I've got a little credibility. So, we've been doing better, but it's been a struggle. But doors are starting to open. Yeah, that's a whole. Wow. If I had to do it all over again.
Well, yeah. I hear you on the challenge. It's never easy.
Yeah.
My latest favorite quote of choice is, let's see, I want to paraphrase it accurately. We're not called to success. We're called to our soul's purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because believe me, I bitch and moan every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be
Yeah,
doing. Why
yeah.
is it so fucking
Yes,
hard?
also, yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So let's talk for a moment about how essential it is that the African component is of your teachings for these African American young men to feel that sense of ancestry and of cultural legacy.
Um, wow, Frederick, um, we as a people, we've been so miseducated. Okay, we've been so miseducated. We we're fed, especially our generation. Okay, here again, I'm 56. Um, my earliest images of childhood, we're seeing the blacks, well, we were colored, the Negroes back then. But my earliest image of childhood at 3 or 4, about 3, we're seeing the blacks being beaten in the water hoses and the dogs, and you know, I just never understood it. Nobody explained it to me. And then all the images that I saw on TV, we were butlers, slaves, clowns, and I just internalized it, that we were less than and everything, you know. In the school system, you're not taught anything about yourself, so you're taught to hate yourself for the most part, so you internalize that. So that was one thing about the rites of passage. Going through the rites of passage is you vomit up that myth, okay, and you're fed another myth, a myth that you are somebody, okay. So like when I explain to people about the rites, for me, it's like you've been going through your life, all your life, people telling you got a red hat on, okay? And then you come to find out that not a red hat, it's a blue hat. Then you come to find out it's not even a hat, okay? So you become somewhat angry, okay? You can become somewhat angry, but then through that whole process, you come to see that everything's okay and there's a purpose for it. So I think the African bit, the history, we need to be taught. You know, we need to be taught our history, that we were somebody, or we are somebody. Okay, so that's a key component, which I must say we really don't get off into, and I guess it's done more so indirectly through the myths and just through modeling. Okay, and one of the reasons for me personally, that I'm a little careful with that. Um, I'm big on the myths and the common themes, and one common theme that you see is that if the hero is given something too soon, and then he burns up the entire village or something. Okay, so I think that for me, that information was so powerful. I think you have to be at a certain age before you can introduce it. And right now, my focus, I'm big on just focusing on what you do well. For me, what I do well for the most part is myth. Okay, so I would prefer. I know the others want to bring more of a rights, component into it, in which we might do a little bit later. But like I said, man, I got my hands full. Wow, with just the myth aspect. So we more so do it indirectly.
Do you mean like more ordeal stuff,
More
threshold stuff, or what
Yeah,
do you mean?
more of the teachings that we had. Okay, actually, our rites of passage, program that we went through, and we could really have that be a component of alchemy. Okay, but me personally, I have my hands so full with so many other things, but I think the components of rights would definitely assist in their development. But now here again, I think Shelton would be and I already know he chomping at the bits to do it. And over time we'll get. I know that we need to implement more rights concepts into it. I just got 800 things going on, so I just got to be careful. So I hope he heard that.
Well, both are essential in my view. I mean, the one is essential in terms of implanting the vision, of who I can be and where I can go. That grand scheme, if you will. And the other is essential for building practical skills. You have to develop that sense of mastery. in yourself that, oh yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, and then another thing too is you know, a lot of times people, our program is not necessarily just a black program. It's more so urban youth, okay? Because while you see Latinos, whites, urban, you know, they grew up in an urban environment, you know, they walking around with their pants sagging, you know, they taking on the same mindset, you know, as, and I'm not, well, I guess I am stereotyping. The black males, okay, so that's another thing I want to be careful about, introducing the whole African piece and then excluding them, because I know what it's like to be excluded. So because here again, our thing is about urban youth, not necessarily just black youth. It just happen to be, you know, most of the youth we work with are black, but now we're starting to get a little bit more of an influx of urban. So I want to be careful about, you know, bringing in something just African and having someone feel excluded.
That's great to hear, yeah. Yeah, I was sitting with a father at lunch 2 days ago. He's got a 13-year-old son, and he's a white guy with a white son. And I actually recommended Chike Nguifi's rite of passage thing, and he works with East Palo Alto African Americans exclusively. And I emailed him. I said, Chike, can you take a white kid? Because you know, he instills them with real pride about African culture, and I think it would really serve this kid actually really well, because he identifies with the urban thing, you know, to be among them.
One more quote. It say, you know, you can have people of your kind who are not of your color, and people of your color who are not of your kind. And like Melodoma Some, when he talks about Michael Meade, he says, to my African warrior brother dressed in white skin. Okay.
My brother from another mother.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, that brings to mind the issue for me, because I've studied this stuff now for a long time, and one of the fault lines around this work is culture. Some would say that you cannot do rite of passage work without instilling a deep pride and sense of the ancestry and the culture from which you come. And yet, there are some practices which don't draw on a particular cultural legacy, that have the more modern modalities, the cross-cultural modalities. And of course, we're initiating young people into a multicultural world these days, right? So they have to be able to. So at any rate, I say both and.
Yes.
Both
Yes.
You know, that, and if there's some kid who goes, and it might be a black kid in Akron who's like, fuck African stuff, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And fine, but you still have to find some way to reach him to initiate that kid, right? So, talk about that.
Well, you just said it. So I mean, So really, and what I really love was you said when you said the fuck word. Okay. I cuss a lot.
No, me too.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay. All right. But yeah, I think, like you say, the both and. I think you would get for blacks. Okay. I think it adds more value. Okay. For us being able to go back and get the ancestor piece, because here again, you know, of the miseducation. Okay. So I think strictly dealing with blacks, I think that's important. Okay, but that's not to say that you still can't reach your goal. I personally just think that's important. It might be important for the Latino population, although they don't necessarily deal with the same issues, but they're still, you know, looked at as other. Okay, and you know, so perhaps they would need it, you know, also. Generally speaking, I don't see the whites needing it, because they've already been told that shit, they everything. Okay, so maybe some of their families, if it's generations, you know, of a prison, you know, father, grandfather, uncle, I think there may be something to let them know that, you know, somewhere in your family, you know, you've had people to reach high, you know, high aspirations. So. Here again, and that's just that going back to the best way to train a wild elephant. So yeah, it's both and.
Well, you know, I have a number of wonderful Latino initiators who, like Luis Rodriguez.
Yeah.
I've interviewed him, and you know, and a lot of the work I see them doing is tying the Latino youngsters back to their own Mayan and Aztec ancestry. They were huge civilizations, and
there you go. Perfect example. Perfect example.
And then tying that in also in a way to sort of they were the first Native Americans, so even using sweat lodges as part of their ceremonial practice.
Yeah, so there you go. That's perfect example. Wow, I would love, wow, matter of fact, our youth were just talking about this the other day, because some wanted to be some want alchemy to stay all black, okay, and others, want to see, Latinos and whites come into it. Both and.
Talk for a minute about your initiation and what made you the man you are today.
Wow, I was telling this somebody the other day. I was initiated back in 1993, and I was around 30. I think I was 32 years old, something like that. I don't know. I can't do the math right now. But it was through the rites that I found out that I came here for a reason, for a purpose. And I'm like, wow, that thought never crossed my mind. And it amazes me that how could you live for 32 years and think, that I didn't come here for a purpose. And then that's what just blew me away, okay, that, wow, I'm here for a reason. And it's like, when I look back, I was like, wow, I stuck school out for 15 years. It took me 15 years to graduate because I worked full time and went to school in the evening. And it was like I was always working towards something but didn't even know what it was, okay? Because like I told you earlier, I'm Akron, Ohio, grew up on all black neighborhood, Store Avenue, between Lawton and Slauson. So I mean, I never had any kind of vision. That remind me to get back to the rights piece, okay? But growing up, and not having any images on TV, blah, 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 I grew up never wanting to be anything because I couldn't see anything, what I could be. So I grew up not wanting to be anything. So it's easy for me to meet my objective, okay? But through the rites, I got introduced to that concept of that came here for a purpose. So that made me think, wow, I got something that I'm supposed to do. But then it was through the rites that I got introduced to the work of Carl Jung, okay? And so I remember I read Portable Jung and his chapter on the phenomenology of self, and I got introduced to the ego, the persona, the shadow, because I'm off into the dark side. I'm off into the dark side. Okay, and the anima, that just laid me out how we got the female within us. And then the wise old woman, the wise old man, and so that just blew me away. And then his chapter on synchronicity. So then I started reading a lot of Jung. Then it was through Jung that I got introduced to Joseph Campbell. So there was the rites, okay, and I had these books on my shelf, okay, the ones that changed my life. So it was the rites that really, Malcolm X started, okay, because I didn't really start reading until I was 31, 32. And when I read Malcolm X, Autobiography of Malcolm X, that's what got me started. Then I went through the rites, and that's how I got introduced to that purpose, to Jung, to Joseph Campbell, and then Michael Meade, okay? So the rites changed, it changed my life because it gave me another way to just view the world, okay? And I knew that I had a purpose and had things that I had to do. So the rites is what got me started, for everything. That's how I ended up going to Pacifica, okay? Yeah, the rites changed my life, okay, changed my life.
Well, you're actually lucky. 32. I was like almost 40.
Okay.
2 weeks before my 40th birthday.
All right.
Before
Okay.
I finally had my long
Wow.
overdue
Okay.
initiation.
All right.
I mean,
Okay.
so I always say better late than
You
never.
say you say I'm crying to the wrong motherfucker, huh?
That's right. You are. I'm thinking, you're lucky. What the hell are you telling me? Well, this is great. Well, for a guy who hates this stuff,
Oh,
you're pretty
okay.
damn
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's. Let's give.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much, Frederick.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.